Welcome to the Women Leaders Association Daily Member Podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. I'm your host, Julianne Kirkland. And in each Daily Member Podcast, we will pick out a great speaker from one of our meetings that we thought you would enjoy. You can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or find a networking group near you, or if you just need access to the membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
Thank you everyone for being here. And thank you to all the panelists. I think a lot of this will reflect on what you said as well, which is great to know. My name is Maritza Berger. I am the Sales Activation Manager at Piaggio Fast Forward. And I'll be talking about becoming the leader you envision today. We've heard this before. Workers generally don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses. And it's been mentioned in Forbes, it's been mentioned in Fortune magazine articles all across the world. And what we know about this is that it really takes having a good leader in place. Good leaders are very important. LinkedIn actually releases an annual report about the most in-demand skills. The skills list is based on data gathered from job postings and member activity. And this year's list of 2023 results show that within the top 5 most in-demand skills are leadership. So leadership falls at number 4, the top 5 being management, communication, customer service, leadership, and sales. And we'll go to the next slide here. And I'll introduce myself a little bit here. So hi, everyone. I'm Maritza. And a little bit about me. I started working, I graduated from Florida State University in 2009, and I started right after college with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So I've been in management sales for about 13 years now. I was part of their management training program at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And since then, I worked in all different industries. So everything ranging from hospitality to tech. The company I'm with now, it's called Piaggio Fast Forward, and it is a smaller company based out of a bigger brand. So we're a part of Piaggio Group, who's most famously known in the United States for the Vespa scooter. And our brand, Piaggio Fast Forward, makes a following cargo robot. So it's a robot that follows humans and holds all your stuff for you. So it's a very interesting, fascinating field to be in. And really with that job, I do everything from account management to business development, a little bit of B2B marketing as well. It's really quite the range, but it's really kind of a reflection of everything I've done in the past. I've done everything from account management to strategic partnerships to growing territories and offices for companies. And on the marketing side, I've done everything from client relations to agency relations and websites, blogs, and social media. I stay busy and I love to hear all the wellness talks on the panel because I also am very big on volunteering as well. I volunteer for Mental Health America, and I have a mental health podcast as well as having my own side business as well. I'm doing fashion design, so a little bit of everything. So it's important to have balance. It definitely is. I'm going to show you a slide real quick, and it's just an image that I want you guys to look at. And I just want you guys to look at this image real quick and think what kind of feelings it evokes and emotions. So I'll give you guys about 10 seconds. Normally we do this in person, but I'll just let you here reflect on this image. So if you look at that the image with just the robot, and I had to put a robot in, of course, since I'm in robotics, a robot touching the human hand. We see there's a lot where there's a gap between the human hand and the robot. There's a lot to interpret in that picture. There's a lot of questions and a lot of different things that we don't know, and it's not communicated in the image. But if you look at this image right here, we have a robot that's cooking for a human. And what I want you to realize the difference between the two pictures is this picture right here. There's been studies that have shown that we can spend up to 67 minutes a day just cooking and 400 hours a year cooking in our homes. And I want you to imagine just having all that time back in your day, having an hour of time back in your day to spend maybe with the ones you love, maybe spend a time with your family. Just want you to imagine having all that time and a solution that could give you an hour back in your day. So the difference kind of between the two is this one evokes more of a story. It tells more of a story of what the future could be. So going to the next slide, a leader can really turn any vision into reality. So all of us are leaders. We all can be. It's just a matter of turning any vision into reality and communicating that with people. And then we'll go to the next slide here. So where does it start? It really starts with mindset. So really just having that mentality. I'll show you a quick video here. This next video is from a movie called The Iron Lady. It was a 2011 biographical drama film based on the life and career of Margaret Thatcher. This was just a very pivotal scene, and you guys can watch it later. It's from The Iron Lady. It's a scene called What We Think, We Become. And that's the most impactful line of the whole scene, because she asks me what I'm thinking and goes into what we think we become. So it all starts here from this mindset perspective of, what do we believe in ourselves? Do we believe we are the leaders that we seek out to be? So becoming the leader, the next slide here. There's so many stories of leaders we know. The following slide. There's so many leaders in today's society. We look at people. Oprah is one that I'm going to note. And if you know some of the details of Oprah's story, Oprah started out, she had a really troubled childhood growing up. But her first kind of real break, she became a daytime, before she became the star of daytime TV, she was actually fired from her job as an evening news reporter from Baltimore's WJZ TV, because she was seen as unfit for television news. And I think we can all look at stories where we might think we're not capable of something because of something that happens to us. And the true story of what happened was this actually resulted in her being given a daytime TV show. And at the time, she even says in an interview that she was devastated completely. And I think what we realize is this, leading into the daytime TV show, actually launched her career and made Oprah who Oprah is today with the network. And she's received an Emmy Lifetime Achievement Award in 1998 and numerous accolades for all of this. But it all started from somewhere, and it all started from a turning point that she took the most of and became who she is today. We'll go to another quote that I love. So it's 2 slides from now, from Beyonce. Power is not given to you, you have to take it. And it truly is something that we all have within us, but we all have to realize that we're capable of it. So the next slide here, the reality of it. So we all have this in us, but the reality is there are some things we have to look at when it comes to being a leader. This next slide here is created from the Council on Foreign Relations and the Foreign Policy Program. And it talks about foreign leaders. They rank 193 UN member states on their progress towards gender parity and political participation. So as you can see here, there, even in the first representation here, 22 out of the 193 countries have a female head of state of government. That is still a small amount, a very small amount. And reflecting on the other 2 slides here, the 2 pictures, it's still very low. So we're making progress, and that's the good thing, but we still have so far to come. And the good thing is there's things out there, there's a lot of data out there now that we can look at and we can reflect on and see where we need to improve and areas of opportunity for us. This next slide here, how I mentioned, we have more women leaders today. There are studies, they show the gender gap has narrowed for younger women as they increase their education level and break into occupations traditionally dominated by men. However, we know there's still a gap. So there's still opportunity, there's still disparity. But womenintheworkplace.com does I encourage you all, I'll put it in the chat as well. They do a study that's put together by Lean In and McKinsey & Company, and the results are astounding because it does show the progress that we're making. I'm going to read just a little bit from their study. Women leaders are just as ambitious as men, but as many companies, they face headwinds that make it harder to advance. They're more likely to experience belittling microaggressions, such as having their judgment questioned or being mistaken for someone more junior. They're doing more to support employee well-being and foster inclusion, but this is critical in spreading them thin and going mostly unrewarded. And finally, it's increasingly important for women leaders that they work for companies that prioritize flexibility, employee well-being, diversity and equity and inclusion. And so I think with this quote here, we can all reflect on a certain piece of it. I know for me, the being mistaken as someone more junior, I've had bosses come in different roles that I've been in. I had one in particular who would mistakenly keep saying that my male counterpart had been with the company longer, even after I corrected him. My owners of the company corrected him. And that was only a little bit of kind of working with him, but he was not the best leader for me. And you have to realize that you can learn just as much from leaders that you don't work well with than leaders that you do work well with. Another thing, just I'm going to note, I was at a conference before, and one of the women in HR just moved up her role. And she had made a great point about how when she moved into a role, the interesting thing was the majority of men under her had reached out to ask her for coffee. But the majority of women, there were only one or two women that had even asked for a coffee introduction or meeting to learn about her new role. And I think that just shows that although there's differences between men and women, we can take those things and we can take those and use those to our advantage. So maybe it's, asking for that coffee in the workplace or asking to speak to that executive. We all have it in us. It's just we all have to use it. So I thought that was really interesting. I know working in robotics, it is a very male-dominated industry, and we do things at our company to specifically make sure we bond together as women. So we have a Slack channel that's a girls' coffee chat, and we talk about things that are empowering and talk about women's articles, and we have fun and we make fun of it because we are the minority in the company. We are not. It is pretty much 80% men in our company. So it's looking at things like that are important. And then I recommend, if you can get a female mentor, reach out, try to find somebody that either has been in your role or maybe you can learn from. It's very important. It also helps to maneuver workplace dynamics like this. So there's many differences between looking at managers and looking at leaders. The next slide here kind of shows some of the differences between leaders and managers. And leaders really need to think differently than managers. So on the following slide, we have a chart of really the differences between taking a leader versus a manager. So managers do the things here on the left hand of the slide, but the leaders will do the things on the right-hand side. So creating a vision, think about being a change agent for your company. You're unique, you're taking risks, you're in it for the long haul, you grow personally, you build relationships, you coach, and you create fans. And this last one, Raving Fans is a great book, but creating fans is really important when you're moving through being just a manager to a leader. Knowing the following slide, this is really key. Know the direction you want to go. I'm going to go with, tell you guys a personal story of kind of where I feel like this is one of the most important things about becoming a leader. At one point in my career, I worked with Marriott Hotels, and I came in knowing that they needed someone to grow sales. There wasn't much certain clarity on what the job description entailed, except that they had someone focused on marketing and they needed someone to grow sales. I've always had hybrid roles, so I understand the marketing side, but I've also been driving sales. And what I knew is they built, and this is all Charlotte, a Charlotte property, so I'll tell you guys after what Charlotte property this is, but they built a new concept restaurant from scratch. And they really needed to show corporate the value of building this concept. So they brought in a local chef that created a farm-to-table menu that played on all the local flavors from the region. They had everything from North Carolina. So think of cheese grits, butter made from Cheerwine, and fresh fish from the coast. And they also had a coffee shop that was a brand new concept for Marriott. So typically Marriotts have a Starbucks coffee shop, and they wanted it to feel local and be local. So we brought in local vendors. We had murals painted from local Charlotte artists, and we partnered with local brands. They created a speakeasy for this space as well, and they really dubbed this property as the Marriott of the future. So the job entailed planning these large events and using the event space to its full capacity. And I knew the core fundamentals. So I came in, I looked at what was good, what was working. I knew they had a solid foundation in place. They had an amazing concept to sell. They had social media accounts formed. They had a website, a blog, and a great story. And then I was lucky enough to have a friend that worked for the company, and he was doing all the hiring. So we had great people in place. I knew the people were there, and I knew the concept was there. And I knew from my experience where I could take that to the next level. There's a book I recommend to everyone. If you're starting in a new position, it's called The First 90 Days by Michael Watkins. It's a fundamentally great book. And I really used a lot of that and chunking up the first 30, 60, 90 days. But really kind of what drove me to success was really forming partnerships, strategic partnerships, to plan ongoing events in the space. I did a lot of community events for the restaurant and would do local collaborations with other chefs, improving processes. I knew things were working well. I just wanted to make them work even better. So I trained the staff, made sure they were referring right, and empowered employees in the restaurant. So I'd empower my staff to help me with events, help plan things, and it really engaged the staff in a different way. I developed incentive programs. If you can do that, great. We did small incentive programs to just make sure people were talking about the restaurant. We were getting the reviews we wanted. Things were going well, and people were being mentioned for their great work. And then I reached out to people in the industries that had done it before or had done similar roles. It was a very unique role. So I reached out to people that were just selling in restaurants who could do that, and really went a little bit out of my comfort zone in terms of meeting people. But from that, our restaurant was mentioned on numerous food articles, and we actually, our chef got invited to be on Top Chef, and he now owns Goodyear House in Noda. So if you guys are familiar, Goodyear House, definitely recommend it. And the Google reviews were great. And so I knew all the things that we needed to do to increase sales, but it was really taking my skill sets and what I had learned and really using my strengths to build this business. And it worked well. And so as a result, we did many sales. We increased our sales, and I was also nominated for Leader of the Quarter. So it was something that it was really about engagement with the staff, figuring out what worked well and going from there. So the biggest thing after knowing the direction you want to go is having a clear vision. So I'll have you flip here to the next slide. So have a clear vision for your desires and for yourself. So what do you want? At the end of the day, what do you want out of your career? And then ask yourself what you're best at. You have the most confidence in this zone. So I 100% say use your strengths and master your strengths, because that's where your personality is going to come out. And that's where people are going to really see the real you. And then brand yourself. We talked about branding. It's very important. And it's very important because people want to know why they can count on you, why they can trust you, and they want to see who you are. Moving on to the next slide. Again, all these same kind of things, be authentic and don't put yourself in a box. I know, like I mentioned, the being authentic, your personality comes out and people want to see that. They want to see the true you. And so no, you don't have to, you can say no. And that is very important in becoming a good leader. You have to be cognizant of how much time you spend doing certain things that may distract you from your real ultimate goals. I know for me, I'm such a people person, but I have to make sure I'm aware when I'm doing networking events or when I'm doing calls that I do cut it short or cut it to a time that works for me. I make sure not to go over my hour meetings or 30-minute meetings, because as much as I love it, it is exhausting for me. It does take a lot of energy out of me. So it's realizing those little things. Build trust in yourself and provide value. So this is really key in terms of advancing your career. Give yourself pep talks, do affirmations, write things down. It really does help. I know when I interview for other positions, sometimes I know we talked about just going for a position. Sometimes we don't feel like we're completely qualified. But what I've done in the past is almost write myself a little note of, here are all the reasons that I know I'm the best for this job, or I know I can do this job because I've done XYZ before and I've excelled at those things. So talk about your stories. They're worth telling. I mean, they're your stories. And that's what you need to realize and provide value, because at the end of the day, people want to trust you? So why should they trust you? And then going into the next slide here, it's not about titles, it's through actions. I have a few examples. I remember saying about my former area manager that he made it necessary to meet all of his employees, even his management trainees who were new to the company. He would take me out to lunch, get to know me, and checked in when I changed offices. Did he have to do that? No. But did he? Yes. And those are the things that people look at and they remember. This was early in my career, and I will never forget those things. And then I had another manager who I felt like he really understood me, and he valued and listened to me in the workplace. And I never felt as if I didn't have a voice. And people will remember those things. People will remember that you were supportive and you were helpful in their career. So leadership style wise, there's different leadership styles for everyone. Daniel Goleman is an internationally known psychologist, author, and science journalist. He is known for many books, including Emotional Intelligence. Has 6 leadership styles that he mentioned. So coaching, affiliative, democratic, pace setting, visionary, and commanding. And every leadership style is a little bit different. Visionary would be something like, come with me. Coaching was something like, try this. Affiliative, people come first. Democratic, what do you think? And then pace setting, do as I do now. Commanding, do what I tell you. Everything is going to work different for every single person. You may have one leadership style that you work really well in, and really just own that style and know what works best for you. Going to the following slide here, take notes, the good and the bad. As I mentioned, you can learn so much from bad leaders as you can good leaders. So when as much as it can be tough to work with someone that you don't really see eye to eye with, take things from that. I had one former manager that, at one point in my life, I actually got let go from a job, and it's never a good feeling, especially when you feel like you contributed to the company. You put a lot of energy into that, and it's really tough. And I remember he reached out within that next year to call me about something. And I had thought maybe it was an opportunity for our client. Maybe it was an opportunity for someone. He thought of me. When I called him back, I remember him getting the voicemail, and he worked for a different company. So I was like, oh, that's a little odd. But he had called me about me working for him again, me working for him. He went into this, we didn't talk much at first. He just went into the whole job description and why he was thought of me for this job and why he thought I'd be a great fit. But what I realized after that whole conversation, it was 25 minutes of him talking and not asking a single question about what I wanted and what was important to me and what mattered in my career. And so I just saw from the opportunity of where we were and why we didn't work well together to where we are now, it still didn't improve. And sometimes it takes seeing leaders that you don't work well with to understand that. And almost lastly, the next slide here, be aware of your tone and body language. This is very important. I tell people all the time, people need to feel comfortable. Ask yourself the tough questions. You can video yourself. You can record yourself on calls. Just see how you approach situations and see how you act in certain situations. It's very important to becoming a better leader because you want to know where you can improve. And then ask your friends. They can be some of the most honest people for you, but ask them 3 words that describe you and take that and use those words. If they're strengths, own that and go with that. And that's very helpful. And then lastly, kind of as you gain power with leadership, just remember where you are from and be grateful for that. I say this for multiple reasons. Being able to reflect on where you started will give you a greater perspective in business. And practicing gratitude has been proven to better relationships, improve physical and mental health, and improve self-esteem. So just be aware of where you came from in the beginning and be grateful because you can give that to your employees.
Hey, my friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, be sure to rate, review, and share your biggest takeaway. And if you're wanting more, you can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. You can also get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or a networking group near you. Or if you just need to access your membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Because here at Women Leaders Association, we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. That's all for today, my friends. Bye for now.